And just inside,
this is a fire damper. A video filmed by hospital maintenance staff demonstrates how it works, closing to stop the spread of fire. Less than a year before the hospital opened, a technical report raised concerns about dampers in buildings operated by the Mental Health Trust. It stated,
"There is no suitable safety procedure available to enable Balfour Beatty staff to safely carry out maintenance."
The report showed images of a damper sealed with tape, one propped open with a piece of metal preventing it working in a fire, and others built into the wall so they couldn't be accessed for testing.
and as you can see on this one, there is an inspection hatch installed, but it's been installed 90 degrees out of line. So for us, this damper is actually inoperable.
Just 2 months before the hospital opened in 2010, Balfour Beatty management were clearly worried. One emailed,
"I don't need to tell anyone the implications of not being able to test them for what is now 2 years."
In June, the month the building did open, another manager raised concerns the main hospital building was also affected.
"I anticipate we will have the same issue on the main acute."
Between March and June 2010, 418 fire dampers in the mental health sections of the hospitals were inspected. Only 218 passed. 3 units were damaged and 197 could not be tested because of insufficient access. In the acute section of the hospital the following year, 31 dampers were tested and only 1 passed. A year after the hospital opened, there were still problems. One Balfour Beatty manager conceded,
"There is a risk they may cease when they are required to operate."
One whistleblower who worked for Balfour Beatty Workplace says staff were well aware of the issue.
If you're not able to gain access to the fire dampers in order to test them and maintain them, then there is no way of telling whether they work correctly or not. So in the event of a fire, there is no way to know.
This is one of many dampers that have been taken out of commission.
Under health and safety law, fire dampers have to be tested every 12 months. In a statement, Birmingham and Solihull Mental Health NHS Trust acknowledged that when their buildings opened in 2010, they were made aware that Balfour Beatty needed to improve access arrangements for staff to maintain fire dampers. It added a programme of works was provided which commenced in 2010 and were completed in 2011. No payment for these works has been made by the Trust.
Would you like to attempt to access the damper safely?
An inspector at the West Midlands Fire Service told us fire dampers are only one line of defence, and as a whole, the buildings are safe. He admitted, though, he was surprised he'd never been informed about the untested dampers. But could that be because of a fundamental flaw with the way the private finance initiative is run? This man thinks so. Robert Eyre was a health and safety advisor for Balfour Beatty at the Queen Elizabeth, who left to set up his own company, remedying private finance projects that have come unstuck.
One thing needs to be sort of kept in mind is these are self-monitoring contracts. It's a strange phenomenon. The private finance company has to report its deficiencies to the NHS on a monthly basis, and where things are deficient, a deduction in the payments are made. The problem with that is that there's a bit of a disincentive for a PFI company to always be completely transparent. If they tell the whole truth, it's going to cost them a lot of money.
And that financial disincentive, critics say, is what's gone wrong with the private finance initiative, not just at the Queen Elizabeth in Birmingham, but far beyond. More than 700 buildings, the very fabric of our public sector, have been built using private money. Many now face scrutiny, and until the contractors are made to pay, it's the taxpayer who's footing the bill.
We've probably looked at 12 or 13 sites now. We've found problems on every single site. They range from schools to hospitals to colleges to a fire station.
So it's pretty widespread, this?
It's very widespread, and what we're seeing is just purely the tip of the iceberg.
It's now 8 years since the Birmingham project got the go-ahead. The hospital concedes there are still ongoing problems with the building which are gradually being resolved. They have a large team in place scrutinising every aspect of the PFI contract, to make sure the companies which are paid millions to look after the buildings meet their obligations to carry out repairs. The concern is whether hundreds of other public buildings constructed with private finance up and down the land are able to do the same.